that last name was a previous owner of that house at the time that I sold this bike. And I was like, that's my old bike. That's so freaking cool. Say it with me, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Hey guys, John with Cheap Old Cars and Corners. Today's a different kind of day, a different type of video. So typically it's car stuff on the car front. The Blue Bullet's sitting right there behind the camera. My IRS is here and all my parts. I'm waiting for stuff to come in. I don't know when the coilovers are going to get here. You know, I've got the front coilover springs, but I don't have the front shocks. Or the front coilover kit to turn the struts into coilovers. I have the rear coilover kit, but not the rear springs or the rear shocks. I think that's it. I think that's all I really need outside of the stuff I haven't ordered. Stuff I haven't ordered being a few more bushings for this, the tuner for the car to change to the 373 gears. I'm going to need a welder to put the subframe connectors in and everything that goes along with that. So that's going to be a whole big thing. But today, we're going to talk about bicycles. Now, it might be weird for a fellow with this physique to talk about bicycles. I used to ride a lot. And then was working full-time, sometimes 60, 70 hours a week, and doing my my master's degree. I got an MBA, okay? Emphases in leadership and ethics. I was doing that, working full-time, doing that, kid come along, and there was a point where, I mean, I've always been a little chubby. I've always kind of fought with that. Turns out I got a lot of food allergies that went undiagnosed for a long time, which created swelling and like water swelling. And that's a lot of what my belly is. I'm working on that. I'm working on it. It's tough. So since I've started making these videos, from my highest, which was almost 340, and then when I started making these videos, I was about 310, and I'm down in the mid 290s right now. And it's coming off slowly. I'm just trying to eat better, no sugars, way less carbs, stuff like that. But I retain water in my belly really bad. Actually, my father-in-law has to go get what's called paracentesis, because he has liver issues and they have to drain off fluid from his abdomen. And I'm like, maybe I ought to do that because, it's rough. Anyway, but I'm trying to get back into exercise. Being as heavy as I was, and I have knee problems, it was difficult to do some things, like going for a long walk or something. Going for a short walk would kill my right knee. So I was working out in 9th grade, okay, I'm like 15, and I had a bar with 145 or something like that on it. Anyway, I was doing hang clean and brought it up, and it slipped out of my hands, and I tried to get it back away from it. And when I did that, the bar landed literally on top of my kneecap, okay? Should have went to the doctor, didn't go to the doctor. There was a piece in there that I feel like I could move around and stuff. And the kneecap, it just pops and does weird stuff. My right knee always hurts. It hurts every day since the 9th grade, and I'm 41 now. So when I try to ride bikes, even though I love riding bikes, and I used to ride quite a bit, I get on a dirt trail up and down hills and different things, 5-8 miles or so, and my knee is smoked and killing me, and just, yeah. So I was struggling even exercising to build myself up more because I would hurt my knee, and then I'd have to stop riding for a month or two because it would just swell. And it was awful, okay? But I've always been into mechanical things. I want to get rid of this. I want to be able to keep up with my son. So I'm just, like I said, way less sugars, way less carbs. Not doing like just the carnivore diet or anything like that, but a lot of green stuff is really bitter tasting to me. And that is a thing. I can't remember what it's called, but that is a thing where a lot of leafy things or veggies and stuff are just extraordinarily bitter to a person, and they are to me. I'm trying to learn to like some things. I like carrots. Carrots are good. Well, obviously, everybody likes potatoes, but that's just starch and whatever. Anywho, I'm trying. I'm slowly trying to. I just need to. If I can only exercise so much, honestly, I just need to even cut back more on what I'm eating, because it's the calories in, calories out thing. So if I can't do a bunch of physical stuff, and build up in that way. I need to just kind of slow back or knock back the eating some more, then get my body to get rid of some weight. Because I know your knee is a lever, and I can't remember the numbers on it, but like every 25 pounds or something is like, I don't remember, a few 100 pounds of on your knee when it has to bend, in terms of like the you know, the weight at the end of a lever type thing. I don't remember the statistics on that, but I know that if I was lighter, my knee would hurt less. I like riding bikes. Back to that. I've always loved riding bikes. I used to ride bikes all the time. I had motorcycles and four-wheelers growing up, and I'd still ride my bicycle. I just like riding bikes. This bike here is the first one we're going to talk about. It is a 2013 Trek Stash 8. Okay. I just got this bike recently, actually, last few years ago. This was an absolute dream bike of mine. You know, if you have like a dream car of like a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or, you know, Bugatti or whatever, this is that to me. I wanted one of these bikes so bad. I think this bike is so cool too, because this is an aluminum frame, right? And they sanded it and clear coated it with a tinted clear. And so like, yeah, this green is paint that's underneath, but all of the silver that you see, you can see the sanding marks in it because it's actually tinted clear over bare aluminum. I think that stuff's cool. It has a Fox fork on the front. I always, you know, grew up watching racing stuff, off-road racing and different things, and you see the, you know, the trophy trucks running. You know, a lot of them like King shocks and stuff now, but I grew up seeing Fox on everything, and I just thought Fox suspension was the coolest thing ever. And so like, I've got some Fox hats and stuff, and I know when I wear them, I'm like a fat dude in khakis with a Fox hat. It's got to look D-baggy, right? It has to. I understand that. I like Fox stuff. So anyway, this bike, I wanted one of these so bad when they came out. At the time this came out, I had 2013, so I had a 2011 Gary Fisher Wahoo. It was blue, black, and white. Really liked that bike. It was my first like nice bike that I ever bought for myself. But it would, after about 1 mile, my right kneecap would start popping and moving weird. And I tried to change all kinds of stuff about how I was positioned and the seat forward and backward and just all kinds of different things on it, and my knee would just pop. So that one was out. I sold it. I got a Gary Fisher Marlin in 2012, I think. It was green. And by this point, I'm like, I'm wanting to fix it up and stuff. So I'm on eBay, and I find because this one has where is it at? Where is that? I don't know if we can see it right here. It says it somewhere on the fork. Maybe it's on the other side. Anyway, the G2 suspension stuff, the Gary Fisher G2 steering angles, which was a head tube angle, and then the center line, I don't remember what that's called, but the center line of the stanchion versus where the center of the steer tube is offset a little bit more. And it just created the kind of steering that he thought was good. So yeah, I like the G2 stuff. Back to that Marlin, that's where I was. So I found online, I found a white, because that bike was mostly green. It was this color, a little bit brighter than this color actually, but it was all that green color with a little bit black and white accents. And it was fairly entry level in terms of parts and stuff. I had another bike. We'll get to that bike in a second. But it rode pretty well. And then I put that, I got online, I got on eBay, and I found a Fox G2 29er fork. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Hard to find those. Still is hard to find. There's actually one on eBay right now. Wouldn't be surprised if it was my old fork, because there just probably weren't a lot of G2 Fox forks sold unless they came factory on a bike like this one. Anyway, and I would take it out and I'd ride it, and I could 5-6 miles on the trails and be pretty smoked, right? Knees hurting. I'm pretty wore out, and I'm just like, man, I was riding 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. At this point, this was before my MBA, before I started that. And I was trying to ride a lot, and I was riding around the house on the streets, and I was riding on the trails every weekend, and I was really trying to push myself and get better. And I was struggling a lot, because again, I was heavy. I wasn't 300 pounds back then. I was 250, 260, but I was struggling. My food allergy stuff, which I'm allergic to wheat, tomatoes, and peanuts, and that's in everything. emulsifiers. They use wheat as an emulsifier to make foods thicker. So stuff you wouldn't think wheat's in, it's got wheat in it. I eat it and I'm like, I don't think there's wheat in that, and swell up. So dumb. Anyway, it's better. I can manage it. None of the allergies are too bad. Like if I have peanuts, it's not going to kill me and swell my throat up, but I'll get some heartburn and some swelling and stuff. And yeah, it's just not great. So all these food allergies are undiagnosed at this point in time. I'm eating fairly healthy, not great, but I'm eating not bad either. And I'm exercising a ton and I'm just staying steady. I'm like, what's going on here? And it turns out, water weight and stuff, whatever. So I go and I find a 2008, and this is in 2012, so it's a few years old at this point, a 2008 Specialized Epic. Oh my gosh, and it was a full suspension. And it was one of the weird ones where instead of having, well, there's a full suspension down there we'll get to, but instead of having like the shock like here and stuff, it's like back here in the rear triangle. It was a really weird setup, and it had what they called the brain on it. And so that was a secondary valve that set off of the shock, and it had its own valving in it. That worked really well. It was a really cool bike. It was lightweight and everything, but then I realized something when I rode that bike. I could ride my Marlin as far as I could ride it before my body was absolutely smoked. Then I could go out the next week, on a Saturday to a Saturday, and get on that Epic and ride literally twice as far till my body was smoked to that same point where I'm off the bike walking, barely able to hold my knee up anymore because then it's starting to swell up on me. So I was like, okay, I can ride twice as far. What's up here? And it wasn't the lightness of the bike. It's a few pounds difference in weight. What it was the bearings. The pedals rotated smoother. The bottom bracket rotated smoother. The wheels spun easier. I didn't have brake drag. And yeah, so I was like, okay, so that's what it is about nice bikes that makes them nice. It's the bearings are a lot better. Obviously you get lighter stuff, and the bikes even right now, like the current stuff, because all the stuff we're going to look at here is old. But the current stuff, like they're wider, and it's more about the handling and stuff, and the weight is not a concern anymore. Like bikes are actually heavier now than a lot of the ones I have here in terms of aluminum frame stuff. You got e-bikes. E-bikes are crazy. I'm not spending $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a bike. Not going to happen. This is cheap old cars, and these are cheap old bikes. That's how we do. Anyway, so this was one I wanted forever. I had some other bikes. I had another bike in there too around that same time, 2013. It's actually up here. I'll show it to you. Really cool story with that one. Very excited to show that one off. This was a dream bike in 2013. I remember the advertising for it. I went to Fat Tire in Bentonville, Arkansas, and they had one of these hanging on the wall in 2013. And I was just like, I need it. It's amazing. I'm gonna turn the light on. Hey, that's a little brighter. And I turned the light here so you can see this bike a little bit better. So anyway, I remember seeing one of these hanging on the wall. I wanted it so stupid bad. A few years ago, I think 2023, 22 or 23, I'm looking for a bike again. I'd had a Kona. Dadgum, what was that? It was it was a fairly entry-level Kona. I remember it was $1,000 when I bought it, and I bought it in 2019, 2022, somewhere in there. I don't remember. No, I was earlier than that, I think, because my kid was still pretty young. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it was an orange Kona. I think it was a Blast. Kona Blast. That sounds right. It wasn't a Lava Dome or a Cinder Cone or anything like that. I think it was a Blast. I think. It was orange, and it rode really well. The geometry of it and all the touch points and everything, it worked really well for me, and I rode that bike a fair amount. But then when I started to look into upgrading it, because I wanted to change out the bottom bracket and change out derailleurs and brakes and stuff, and I was like, I was going to keep the frame, fix it up a bit. I'm looking it over, and all of the little cable ties and stuff weren't set up for like this. It was set up to where the cable runs to it, and then it's open and exposed up under the top tube here, and there was like 3 exposed cables for a section, and I was like, man, I don't want to get into that, like having to like maybe chop these little bracket pieces down or have it zip tied and then they stick off a bit to come around that stuff. And it just kind of, I don't know, it was a nice bike, it was a fun bike, but not being able to just do completely shielded cables. This one has some internal routing, which it's a little tough to work with, but whatever, that's fine. Fishing new ones through there is going to be super fun if I have to do it. So hopefully I don't have to do it. That orange Kona I had, it was, I don't know, some things about, there was some other stuff about it too that was a little weird when I was trying to put aftermarket parts on it. And I just said, okay, I'm going to put it back together as stock, sell it, and see what I can find. So I put it back together, got it sold pretty quickly actually. Man, that dude tried to talk me down really hard, and then he showed up and started trying to say that I said a number that I didn't say. And he was like, I don't remember how I sold it for. Let's just say it was 500. I honestly don't remember. And he was like, so you said 425, right? And I said, no, we agreed on 500. And he just looked at me, goes, man, he pulls out his phone, he goes, I thought it was 425. And I said, don't play these games. You know what you're doing. No, I'm not going to give in to some kind of crap you're trying to pull and you get the extra deal here. I said, you're already getting a good deal on this bike. Surprisingly, he pulled the cash out and paid me. After pulling all that crap, I didn't think he was going to try to, I figured he was going to walk away. He paid for it though, and that was, that was a weird one. Anyway, so I hop online and I'm looking on, I think a Pink Bike maybe. I'm looking on the online thing where you can see bikes around the country and stuff. And I was like, looked for a Wahoo, which I don't need because I remember it hurt my knee. And I was like, what about a Stash? Well, let's see if I can find one of these things. Because what I paid for this, I mean, I went and looked at new bikes. What was that new Trek that I looked at? I looked at a Specialized and I looked at a Trek Roscoe 8, I think. And it was a nice bike, cool color, fit me well, rode well and everything. It was kind of heavy, heavier than what I kind of am used to with these here, but it was a cool bike. But I've run into so many issues with cheap derailleurs, the gear shifting parts on the bikes, and cheap brakes and stuff. And I'm like, I just don't want that. I want the nicer stuff that lasts a little bit longer and is a bit better. And so I started looking online on Pink Bike, and I put in Stash, and this guy was sitting there for sale. It had been for sale for like 6 or 7 months and no one bought it. And he was asking, I think $1,200 for it. Now that might seem kind of weird because this is a 2013 and I'm looking in, was it, I don't remember exactly, either 22 or 3 or something, right? I don't remember exactly, but I'm looking and I'm like $1,200. Okay. Well, it looked really nice. The pictures were really clear, good close-ups. There's no scratches on the bike. I'm like, okay, let's look at it. Maybe I can make an offer, and that's a lot of money, but let's see what happens. And so then I see that it's got a carbon handlebar, a Bontrager carbon handlebar. So I'm like, okay, that's needless amounts of money because Easton makes them and other companies make them, and they're cheap. And I'm like, okay, we got a Bontrager carbon handlebar that's painted and everything. That's cool. And these are Bontrager grips that have, I don't remember what these are called, but the grips that have little things here. And then it's got a Bontrager dropper post. And I'm like, why is this guy buying all these parts? Like, these are the expensive Trek parts. What's this guy doing? And then I'm looking at the wheels. They're like Industry 9 trail wheels with, there was a little video. Let's see if I can get this light out of the way here. She loud. And yeah, it had like anodized green spokes and anodized green hubs and everything. And I'm like, man, those are at least $1,000 wheels. I'm like, okay, let's look into this one a little bit. And yeah, so I reach out to the guy and he doesn't reply. He doesn't reply for a few weeks. But the bike says, it says in the thing, it was like, if it's posted, it is available. I will remove as soon as it's posted. I'm like, man, typically people that say that, they do that, right? And so I'm like, so I get a little Facebook stalky, okay? I find the guy, because it says the town the bikes were selling in, and it says his first name. And, or maybe his last name too. I honestly don't remember what was all on there, but I've been first and last name. So anyway, I get on Facebook and I make the search in the Northeast because it was Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania. It might have been Connecticut. Honestly, I don't remember. It was in the Northeast somewhere. I'm in Arkansas, so it was way up there to me. And I find a guy working at a bike shop with this name in this town. Okay. And I'm like, okay, that might be why it's all the Trek parts that were added to it, because he worked there at a Trek dealership. Okay, that's pretty cool. And so I reach out to this dude on Facebook. Hey, I messaged you in Messenger, or I messaged you on this app. I'm sorry. I messaged him in Messenger and I said, hey, I shot you a thing on this other website and very interested in this bike. It's one that I wanted when 2013, missed out on it, didn't have the money at the time, and, you know, really wanted one. And this bike looks really nice. You know, I'm interested in talking to you, see if you're open to offers and stuff like that. The guy messages me back and he says, hey, I'm not the right guy. He goes, but the right guy actually works 2 stalls over from me. They were bike repair guys at a bike shop, right? And they both had the same first and last name. That's kind of weird. But he said, he goes, if that had been my bike, he talked to me a little bit back and forth. And he said, if this had been his bike, it would be used and abused and scratched up and rode hard. He goes, that guy, he said, he has nice bikes. And he rides a lot on a trainer in his house, but he doesn't really go out and ride with us much. He's kind of an introvert and he just kind of does his own thing, like me. He's like, so he said, if you can work out a deal with him on that bike, and he told me too, he's like, the wheels are $1,000, but he's like, it's barely been used. It's barely been ridden. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's make this happen. And so the original guy, I gave the other guy my cell phone number. And so then the other guy texted me. We were texting back and forth about this bike. And he told me all the stuff that it has. And he was like, yeah, he goes, I built it up. It was going to be the bike I actually go out and ride. He goes, I just didn't go out and ride it. So it's barely got any use. The tires were brand new. And so the tires aren't original. They are tires he put on it right for the sale. And so at this point, the tires are a few years old, but they're still in really good shape because it's been inside in a building, at least not out in the UV rays. And so like the bike is just in absolutely excellent condition. There's a little bit of scratches on the brake covers. They're the silver SLX reservoir covers on the brake. So they've got a couple scratches and you can kind of see them, but that's whatever. Yeah, and I put some race face Chester pedals on it because those are kind of my favorites right now. I used to run DMR V8s, but the race face Chester, I really like. Their lightweight plastic and they have good bearings in them, just enough to where they'll stay in place, but they spin pretty easy. You can get ones that spin way easier, but like I like those. And yeah, it was tubeless, and I'm actually going to swap it over to tubes. I just like the ability to carry an extra tube. I know tubeless will seal itself and stuff, but I've tried to run tubeless before. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. I've had issues. I'm going to go back to tubes on it, which will add a little bit of weight. Whatever. The bike weighs 27 pounds, and it's a 29er. So like it's a lightweight bike. I love it. It's my dream bike. It's my Ferrari of bikes. And this is my forever bike. Even if I sell everything else, I'm going to try to keep that one. Okay. Let's move to another bike. Okay, you guys can see two bikes in the frame now. We'll talk about this one in a second. This is a new addition. We're going to talk about this one right now. My 2014 EX7 29er. Now, I specifically call out 29er on that because in 2014, that was the transition year where the EX series was going from 26 to 29. It kind of happened a little bit earlier for a lot of the other Trek bikes and Specialized and Fuji and Giant and all that stuff. But this was the year of the transition. The EX7 came in 26 or 29 that year. And what I was really looking for was that bike down there, the Stash 8. That's what I really wanted. 2013, I couldn't afford it. 2014, we were doing much better. And so went down to the bike shop. I'm looking at bikes. I wasn't really going for a full suspension, but I was looking at this one and it had a lot of the same parts as the Stash. It's the exact same fork. It's the G2 G2 stuff. And so the exact same fork. It had the same grips with the anodized green thing here. Now that one doesn't have them anymore. I'm trying to find some, but I think Race Face has some anodized green lip ones, or lock collar ones. And so I'm probably going to get a set for this and that. That's just pretty stuff. That's fun stuff. It's whatever. But yeah, same fork. It had, what else? The same seat, same saddle with the green on it. And it was the chromoly rails. The stash up there actually has titanium rails. And again, this was the era of lightweight stuff. So it's kind of dumb now. No one really cares about that stuff anymore. Everything can be heavy because everything's got batteries in it. But you know, I'm into this era of bikes, kind of like I'm into that era of Mustangs, that Bullet over there. And so I like the little technical aspects and quirks and features, Doug DeMuro, right, of kind of this era of bikes. And so, like, I think that's cool. It's got that stuff. Now, as you can see, there's no brakes. We got Dior shifters. What's our derailleurs on this guy? SLX front and SLX rear derailleurs with basic Dior shifters. So that's cool. That's plenty fine, perfectly acceptable, good stuff. Perfectly fine. I'm a big fan of that era of Shimano stuff. I don't know much about the new stuff, to be honest with you. Like, this bike over here has some SRAM brakes that I had to look up because I had no clue what they were, but they're fine. This one has no brakes. So the Marlin I told you about earlier, my green Marlin that I had, it had cable pull disc brakes. They were absolutely flipping atrocious. They were awful. I hated them. I had to really grip and they would still barely do anything. It was awful. Okay. A bike over here that we're going to get to in a minute had some Avid Juicy 3s or something like that. And I took the brakes off this one. I took the brakes off the Marlin and threw them in the trash. I took the brakes off this bike over here that we'll get to in a minute. And I put those on the Marlin. And then that bike needed brakes. Well, the one that we'll get to in a minute. And there's a reason I'm telling you this. It's because I pulled the SLX brakes. Are they SLX or are they Dior? They're SLX. I pulled the SLX brakes off this one, Shimano SLX, and I put them on this hardtail that's over here. And that was fine. I wasn't riding this one as much or at all at the time, really. And so it didn't have brakes. So now this bike hasn't had brakes on it for, sold that in 2019. It's probably been 8 to 10 years that this bike hasn't had brakes on it. Still got the original tires on it. It's basically as it was. I've taken it to the trail and I've ridden it on trails 2 or 3 times. Really not that much, because that was in that era that I talked about at the start of the video where I'm like full-time work, full-time school, kid came along and now I'm a dad and all that stuff. Did not ride this one much. Got this in 2014. My kid came along in 2015. So my wife's pregnant and we're like getting the house ready and all the things. This one was, I was almost done with my MBA, and this one was like my graduation present for that. Most expensive bike I've ever purchased. I think it was $2,600 new. Yeah, but like I said, it had a lot of the parts of the stash bike, and so to me it was like a lot of the exact same parts. Like I said, the fork and the whippy doos here, the grips were the same. Some of the other parts were the same, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, I don't remember all the full specs of it, but it felt to me like a spiritual successor, kind of like they used some of those parts in the stash and in the next year, the green and everything. And so I really liked it because this bike came in black and blue and black and green. I was originally wanting the black and blue because I like the blue thing, the Bullet's blue, the Mach 1's blue, stuff like that. So I was like, the black and blue is what I want. But then when I saw this one in the store, I realized that it was some of those same green components, this green sticker here and stuff, as the Stash 8. And so I was like, that's the bike for me. I'm gonna get that one. That's what I need. So this is gonna be fun. I need to get new brakes for it. I'm just gonna go Dior, Shimano Dior brakes. That's gonna be perfectly fine. I could get even the step down from that, the M210 or was it 201, 210? I can't remember. But they're more of a 2-finger brake. And I really like the 1-finger brake with modulation that you can do. You know, with 1 finger, you can go from just barely riding the brakes to flipping yourself over the handlebar, do an endo. I really like that with 1 finger, the 1-finger modulation that you have. And so that really starts at the Dior level. You can get better. You can adjust SLXs, XTs and stuff with a little reach and all the different things. But SLX will be, or Dior will be fine. And I found on eBay takeoff sets of front and rear. Hopefully the rear will be long enough. If not, I'll just get different cables and the different little little tulip pieces and bolt, and then I'll just extend it. So that's not a big deal. I can bleed brakes. Yeah, so that was a really cool bike. I'm very happy to still have it. I want to start riding it more soon. This rubber protector piece used to be softer. Now it feels kind of like plastic because it's old. But it's still a nice bike, and it's in good shape. And yeah, I'll ride it some, and it'll be just fine. Now this one, I was looking for a bike for my son. We had for him a specialized rock hopper that I'd put a Fox fork on. Hang on just a sec. This Fox fork, I had to cut the steerer down, and we're going to put it on another bike, and I have to have a longer steerer put in it for that. But this thing is so light. It is so stinking light. It's a 2011 Fit RLC 120 millimeter quick release QRC. So really nice fork though. I mean, obviously, there are obviously more sturdy mounting methods that don't flex as much, but this has every adjustable thing on it. So it's got compression and rebound dampening. It's got obviously lockout, and then you can set the lockout or slow down the compression with this one here. But this black knob in the center, you can actually adjust the blow off valve for the lockout. And so if you hit something really hard while it's locked out, it'll blow through it, which is a lot of Fox jacks have those, but there's another ring under this blue one that's a lighter blue that you can adjust the compression dampening with that, and then the rebound dampening down here. So this is a really nice fork. I bought it on eBay years ago. Had it on his rock hopper because his rock hopper was like 31 pounds. Okay, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. I'm over here riding this bike with him that weighs 27 pounds, and it's a medium frame 29er. And he's my kid, right? He's 8 at the time or whatever he was when we bought that. We bought that bike in 2023. Yeah, he's been 8. Okay. So he's 8 at the time, and he's bigger than he should be for his age. And so his muscles aren't caught up, and he's riding this 30-something pound bike. And I was like, man, that ain't right. I'm a big old fat guy riding a lightweight bike, and he's a kid that is bigger than he should be for his age with, like I said, his muscles weren't caught up to his size yet. And you know, he's still developing and everything. And like he's riding a heavier bike than me. I was like, that's not cool. So I go out to my old bike tote in the back building, and I'm like, what do I got out here? Do I have an old Fox fork? I didn't think I had any more of them because I remember I sold the G2 fork, and I sold another fork that I had. And then I thought this one got sold too, but it was still in the tote. I'm like, yes. So after putting this on the front of his bike and a carbon fiber handlebar, which is over there, I'll show you guys in a bit. I knocked the front of his bike down 4 pounds. I think it was 4 pounds. It was 30. Did I say? I don't remember what I said earlier. It was 31-ish, and I knocked it down to 27. So about 4 pounds by this and the handlebar, and that made that bike way different. It was more agile and all the things. I put that bike back to stock. We take it over to a local bike shop to do a trade-in, and I'm looking around, and we're looking at stuff, and I wasn't really liking what I was seeing for the price points. You know, there was like a Trek Marlin 5 for $250 that was used and had some scratches on it and stuff. But I was like, oh, that's not too shabby. And it was newer and everything, but it was kind of heavy and kind of, it's that whole thing with the lowering components. And on his rock hopper, he had some issues where it would jump gears a lot. And even after we'd take it and get it tuned up and stuff, because I don't know how to adjust derailleurs, but we'd take it and get it tuned in different things, and it would just not hold a gear very well. He'd pedal hard up a hill and it'd start skipping. And I'm like, we just need better parts. Just better parts. The entry level stuff is just not good enough, I guess. And so I'm looking through the used stuff, and we passed over everything. This bike was sitting in a section of used stuff that I didn't know was used. I thought it was newer stuff. And so one of the guys was like, hey, because they have a room that's like their used stuff. And then one of the guys that worked there was like, hey, did you see over here? We have some more used that like spilled out into the bigger main show area. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that stuff was used. So I kind of walked past it because there was a lot of big, large and extra large frame full suspensions on one side of the thing. And so I kind of walked past that area. And he was like, yeah, he goes, all that's used. And he goes, I think there's some smaller stuff on the backside. So we walk over there, and I see this guy, and I see a Fox fork. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Let's check this out, right? And so this, they had it listed as a 2016, but I looked it up. It's actually a 2014 Specialized Crave Pro. And that's a really nice bike. It was $2,000 in 2014. And it came with the Fox fork on it from the factory. And it was a 2x10 drivetrain that they've changed to a race face 1x setup. And then it has SRAM guide rear brakes. And I can't remember what the front are. I can't read it. It's a different SRAM one. But the brakes are upgraded over what was there. And they're nice. They work great and everything. They're fine. And you can still get pads for them. So that's cool. I can replace them pretty cheaply because some of these parts are on sale right now. And it's got a good bottom bracket. I don't know the actual bottom bracket that's in it, but it's a better one than some bikes. I need to figure out exactly what that is and different things. Most importantly, though, my kid could fit on it, and it was cheap. It was $550. Okay. And I'm like, $550. It's 2014 and stuff, but when I think about that, like to replace that fork on eBay would be $200 to $250 before taxes and shipping and everything. So I got a whole bike that's in pretty good stinking shape. It's got a few scratches, but it's in pretty good shape, and it's a nice bike. Even though it's old, it's a nice bike. I got it for what the fork would cost plus $150 or plus $200 for the rest of the bike. You can't beat that. That's a good deal. So I'm like, I'm pretty stinking happy with this deal. And then they put a new rear tire. There was some electrical tape on the chainstay on the other side. They took that off, got the glue off, and then put a lizard skin piece there. I think it's lizard skin, but that's what they had on the shelves out there. They put new grips on it for us. And yeah, the derailleur hanger was a little bent, so they got that straightened out and got it tuned up and everything. And since it's a 1x, we only have just the rear derailleur. It's an XT as well, which is A-okay. And so like, heck yeah, this is a nice bike. So what I'm going to do to it, I'm going to put some different pedals on it. Kid wants red pedals, so I'm going to do the race face Chester red pedals, the plastic ones. And outside that, it's good to go. Also different saddle. Going to get a specialized bridge saddle. I have actually one of those on my my Stash 8, and it's 143 millimeter, which you can get the 155 as well. With the 143, I don't know, it's just comfortable to me. I guess I haven't measured my sit bones, but I guess it's what I need. But my kid likes it too. We both like the specialized bridge. We really like that saddle. And so I'm gonna get one of those for this. This is the original saddle, but my kid was riding the bike in the front yard, and he rode for like 100 yards. And he's like, Dad, I can't do this anymore. This one's too painful on my bones. I was like, okay, let me hop on it and see. So I ride it out into the street and up the street a little ways and back. And I get back and I was like, yep, gonna hurt to sit down for the rest of the day. And then I jump on that bridge saddle. Like you take some time to get used to it. Every time you get back into riding, you got to get your sit bones used to having all that weight on them. But that one, for me and my son, it's comfy. So we're good. So I'll change that saddle out, the pedals, probably put new brake pads on it, and a front tire. It's got a newer ground control tire. Like you can tell I don't know, maybe it is used because the lettering is a little dirty, but it's still got all the nubs on it. Like it's a new tire. Anyway, yeah, nice bike, really nice bike. So this is my kid's, and I can ride it too because it's my size, which is awesome. Okay. So there's a ladder thing here, and there's some oil. The garage is getting way messy, guys. It is. This is a Trek 4900 from 2013. The front forks off of it. It's in the house, but it's going in the trash. It's garbage. I bought this bike in 2013 because I realized something. Trek was phasing out their 26-inch wheel bikes. I was always a big proponent of the 26, and I was slow and kind of late to get on the 29er thing. And so I was like, because this is what mountain bikes were forever, and I like it, and they're nimble and all the things, right? And so I was really digging the 26-inch wheel thing. And I saw that for the next year, for 2014, there were no hardtail 26s left. They were all 29ers. But they had just released like for the next year, but it was still this year, and whatever month that is where there's that time. And so I went down to the local Trek dealership, and I was like, dude, I'm looking for a 4900. I said, I saw online that the 4900 in that last year had a lot of parts on it that were from like the 53, 5500 or whatever, a few steps up. The 5000 series wasn't available anymore, but either they had leftover parts or they were doing a last hurrah for 26-inch bikes. I don't know, but there were some nice parts on this. XT rear derailleur, SLX front derailleur, A really nice Shimano bottom bracket. Front fork was a spring fork, SR Sun Tour or something chibi, and that was a weak point. And then the brakes were Avid Elixir, Avid Juicy, something, I don't remember, but the brakes weren't that great. They were fine. Like I said, I put them on a different bike, and they were better than what was on that, but they're not. I like the Shimano brakes. Anyway, but like the bike was a pretty good little kit for the price. It was still the normal $4,900 price, but it had some parts, like I saw like an XT rear derailleur, had some parts from a 5,000 something series bike. So I went down to my local bike shop and I was talking to him about it, and he was like, dude, I don't have one of those in stock. He goes, but I actually noticed that too. I noticed that they have some little bit nicer parts on that 4,900 than they did the previous year. And I was like, yeah. I said, can we order one? Are we still in the model year? Can I do it? And he's like, crap, let me check. Because obviously he wants to make a sale. And so he goes and he checks, he calls, makes a couple calls, and he was like, yeah. He goes, we can order one. He's on the phone. He's like, put the phone on hold. And he was like, I can totally order one. I've got like a few weeks left to order one. Do you want? I was like, yep, let's do it. So easy sell for him. I got this bike. It was a great bike. I ran into a slight problem with it. I rode it quite a bit for a little while, but I felt like I was too far forward on it. And it wasn't like my other bikes I'd had. The Marlin and the Wahoo were more the Gary Fisher kind of geometry. It was a little bit different. And I'm short-legged and long torso. And on this bike, I just felt like I was too much up on it, right? Too much leaning over. I tried to change stuff and adjust stuff. It was still a good bike, but it just didn't fit me quite how I thought it was going to. Kind of sucks. And so I kept it. It was barely ridden. It had no scratches. It looked great. And I sold it. I bought it in 2013. I sold it in 2019. And it maybe had 35, 40 miles on it. So, I mean, nothing, right? I put these Maxxis Igniter tires on it, front and rear. This one's still the same tire I put on it. Sold it in 2019. Here it is, right? So while my kids need a medium frame bike, the rock hopper he had was extra small with 26s. And I was like, well, I don't want to get him a small because he's growing really fast. He's almost 5'2" now. And I was like, I think a medium frame, before we got that medium frame 29er Crave over there, I'm thinking like a medium frame 26-inch wheel, few-year-old bike will be good. We can get one with a good part spec on it for a cheaper price because it's used. And I'm talking to him about it, and he's good with that. He's like, that's fine. He goes, I don't need new. I just, I want something nice. He really liked his rock hopper. He was actually kind of sad to see it go because he's attached to it. It was his first bike with shifters and disc brakes and all that stuff. So he really liked it. But he was okay with it going because he had so many problems. We had so many problems with that rear derailleur that it got to a point where he was afraid to shift it because it might start skipping and jumping all over. And it was like, like I said, we took it over and had it tuned, and it would be fine for a week. And we're not hard on stuff. We're really not. But it would just get out of whack. And it would just, yeah, anyway. So I'm talking to him about these old bikes. And he's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's find me something. And I tell him, I'm like, okay, if we're going for a 26-inch wheel, though, we're going to be 2013 back. So the bike's going to be at least 13 years old. And my son, he's 11, but he's like, hey, he goes, you know what you're looking for, so you find me something good. I'm like, okay, dude. And then this pops up. And this was months ago. We've been searching for the right bike for him for a few months now. It really has been. This had been posted in October of 25. I messaged the guy because I remember I had a 4,900, and I messaged the guy and I was like, what size is the frame and stuff, because he hadn't posted that. There used to be a silver sticker right here, but it's gone. And he's like, I don't know exactly, but my kid's 5'5", and it fit him perfect. I'm like, okay, well, that's what I need. And so I'm looking at it. It had some scratches. It was a little roughish looking, quite a bit of paint missing right here. And I was like, maybe, but I think I can find him something nicer. My wife's telling me, she's like, I think that's your old bike. And she goes, I liked that bike. I want you to buy it back. If it's your old bike, buy it back. I was like, I don't know. Because there was a couple things about it that didn't look right, and there was a couple things that did look right. Like the spacers on the top of the headset up here, I had white, black, white spacers, kind of a zebra thing happening. And it was white, black, white. And she's like, it's your old bike. I'm telling you it is. And I was like, I don't know. And they kind of let it sit for a while. And it's like, it's March now. So it had been posted on October 25. It's March. It's still for sale. He hasn't come down on the price any. But I reached back out to him and I was like, hey, hang on. Before I reached back out to him, I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, is that the guy we sold it to that still has it? Is that possible? Because they used to live, the bike is posted in another city. And the guy that I sold it to used to live kind of like right down the road from me, but I knew he moved. And so I got on this local website where you can see all the local property owners. It's, you know, because it's all public information at the courthouse, and they posted on a site for our state. And so I got on that site and I looked up the previous owners of that house down the road that the guy lived in, that I sold the bike to. And he has I'm not going to give names, but he has a pretty distinct last name. It's not a common one at all. And so that last name was a previous owner of that house at the time that I sold this bike. And I was like, that's my old bike. That's so freaking cool. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm interested. If you still have it, I said, I see it's been posted for quite a while. If you still have it, I am interested. My kid has shot up and I think he'd be, you know, a good size for it now. And he messaged me back the next day. He's like, yep, I still have it. And I'd also messaged him a little bit later. I said, if you bought the bike from a chubby guy on this street, I gave him the street. I said, then yeah, I'm the one who sold it to you. And he replied back the next day. He's like, yep, I still have it. And he goes, yeah, that was me. He's like, I remember buying it from you. So that's pretty funny. And so he and I worked out a deal, got a good price on it. My wife still thinks I should have offered lower, but it's still a good set of parts. It's a good bike. I took the front fork. The front fork was kind of leaking oil past the seals at the top. Every time you go down and come back with fresh oil. And it was a spring fork and it was heavy. And so I bought this for this bike anyway. And I cut the steer tube down to fit on my kid's rock hopper. And it's too short for this one by about an inch. I mean, really, it's halfway through the stem with no spacers. And so if it was, yeah, you know, half inch to an inch more, I'd be completely good. And I'm just like, dang, it's just a little too short. So I'm going to call tomorrow and see if one of my local bike shops, there's a couple around here. I'm going to see if they can press in a new steer tube or steerer. Because it's just a 1 1/8 straight steerer. So unless it's like specific size down here, and I know there's different sizes, but I don't think it'll be that hard to find. Hopefully it's not too much and not too expensive, because I can find another Fox fork on eBay for $200. And so it has to be less than that, because if it's over that, then I can just go buy a different one instead of using this one. So we got that, and that's going to go on here, and that's going to be a big upgrade. Big upgrade, because Fox forks are just amazing. Any air fork, the rock stock stuff, they're great. Their air stuff's good. Carbon fiber Easton handlebar that I bought for 15 or 20 bucks 15 years ago or something, just as a clearance sale thing. And it doesn't look carbon, but you can see in the light, I can actually see the weave through the paint here. And yeah, it weighs nothing. And so that'll lighten up the front end of that one, and that'll be cool. So it's got a newer rear tire. It's a ground control specialized rear tire. It's a little worn in the middle, but it's got some life left. The front tire is a Maxxis Igniter that I put on and sold it in 2019. I think I put these tires on in 2016. That's got to get changed. I'm going to put the red race face Chester pedals on this one, just like we're going to do on his car or his Crave. Yeah, I'm also going to switch out the brakes. So where the EX8 needs new brakes, and I'm going to go Shimano Dior on it, I'm going to get a new set of Shimano Diors for this one. It's still got the brakes that I took off of the full suspension. It's still on here, but it's had a life. They've had a lot of use. I could probably bleed them and change the pads and they'd be fine. But the levers and stuff are pretty squeaky and kind of grainy feeling. And I'm just gonna put new ones on. They're not that much money. I found a place on eBay that has front and rear. And like I said, if I need to adjust and make them longer, I can. But I found a place on eBay that's selling front and rear Dior, the M410, for $67. Can't beat that. So I'll get 2 sets of those. It'll be about 140 bucks for 2 sets of brakes. And the other 2 bikes have great brakes on them already. I'm gonna spend a little bit of money because I'm gonna get a new saddle on this one too. That specialized bridge saddle. So two saddles, two sets of pedals, 26 front tire and a 29 front tire. I might get two 29 tires for that one. That one needs, the EX8 needs inner tubes, and I'm going to swap from tubeless on my stash to inner tubes on it too. Just because, like, if I do run into an issue or something, I can carry an extra inner tube with me, and then it's pretty easy to find them. Use any Walmart locally near a trail or whatever is going to have 29-inch inner tube. So I'm going to do that. That'll be fine. But yeah, this bike's going to be pretty cool. I'll do probably a little touch-up paint stuff on it. And yeah, it's going to be rad. So this will be for my kid as well. This isn't for me. Both the Crave and this one are for my kid. I'll tell you an end result number. After his trade-in, okay, because we traded in his rock hopper, which was in stupid good shape. In absolutely no scratches. Perfect shape. The fork I'd taken off as soon as we got it and then put it back on to take it back over there. So the fork looked new, and the bike has a little metal flake paint to it, and I polished it up and took some wax and I made it good. He gave me some money on trade-in. After the trade-in, I am out after trade-in, but also with paying tax for that one, I'm out $650 for both bikes. And that one came with a Fox fork. And they both have like XT rear derailleurs, and dude, that's way awesome. Sure, they're old, right? They're old, but they're also like almost indestructible hardtails. So this is just absolutely outstanding. Got my old bike back. Not mine anymore. It's my kid's now. If he doesn't want it, I'll probably either let him sell it, even though I paid whatever. I'll either let him sell it if he wants it, or if he'll probably, when he outgrows it, because I think he will, I think he's just going to be like, Dad, your bike. Yeah. But they're his. And so I gave them to him. He can do what he wants with them. If he does want to sell this one, I'll probably buy it from him. I like that Crave too. Honestly, I don't need this many bikes for me. But yeah, I mean, I like this stuff. It's fun. It's mechanical stuff and transportation. I enjoy it. So the Crave, if he wants to sell that, I'll probably buy it from him too. Hang them up in the back building, and he put a lock on the back building. But yeah, hang them up in the back building, and they'll be awesome. I'm really happy that this one's back at the house, because after, I bought this in 2013, kid's born in 2015, and I sold it in 2019. So there was 4 years there where I was keeping it and not riding it. The intention was to give it to my kid. But in 2019, I'm like, it's going to be 2029 before he's tall enough to, because he was like 3 or 4 back then, right? I'm like, it's going to be 2029 before he's tall enough to need a medium frame. And here it is, it's into 2025, and he was needing a medium frame because he's so freaking big these days. So yeah, this will be awesome. This one's easier to get in and out of the back of my wife's Escalade. The 29er doesn't fit as well without taking a wheel off. And so for like, this one's on the small side of medium, that one's on the big side of medium. So yeah, this will be his bike for a bit. When he kind of starts to get a little bit big for this one, we'll just stick him on that one. He'll be good to go. And yeah, I mean, this is awesome. So, when I look around here, I have, between me and my son, it's not just me, but I love the Fox Fork thing. And I don't want to be all about things. It's not all about things, because I'm a Christian man and my life is for God. But this stuff's fun. This stuff's fun. Okay. And I look around, I'm like, Fox Fork, Fox Fork, Fox Fork, Fox Fork. Like, yeah, this is awesome. I love it. It's really cool. So I don't know. It's just fun. It's cool to think that we have 4 bikes, that one of them's full suspension, but there's 4 bikes out here that are Fox and upper end Shimano parts on them, and all the stuff I wanted as I was a young man with no money. And I've got them all for what one stinking e-bike costs. So that's pretty rad. Now I know the bike scene's changed. And like if I go up to Northwest Arkansas, which is like the bike mecca of the state, or the country probably. If I go up there, it is a thing where like you're on a hardtail. Plebeian. The poors over there with their hardtails, they full suspension e-bikes, and it is kind of like that now. It's not like about biking, it's about showing off what you have. But I'm just going to treat the biking thing like I did in 2011 when I really started riding a bunch. And yeah, we're just going to have fun. That's what it's about. Have fun, maybe lose some weight. Yeah, this is going to be rad. This ain't even all the bikes I have. I've got a Trek 7.2. It's really pretty blue. It's a hybrid, so it's got, you know, road wheels and tires on it, but it's a mountain bike seating position handlebar. It's very entry level, but it's a nice bike. I ride it around the neighborhood some. I've still got my Schwinn SX 2000. I think it's SX 2000, 2000, whatever. It's a 1991 Schwinn BMX bike from before Schwinn sold out to overseas corporations. It's the last year before they sold, and it's a chromoly frame BMX bike. It's really cool. It's not worth a lot or anything like that, but it's a cool bike. That was my first bike that was mine and not a hand-me-down from my brother, because I was the younger brother, so I got a lot of hand-me-downs. That Schwinn was the first one that was mine. So I still got it. And then my wife has a step-through pink Specialized bike. I don't remember the name of it. It's got wide, you know, like 26 by 2.1 or 2.2, but smooth street tires on it. And that's for her to cruise around the neighborhood and stuff. I think that's all we've got. I used to have more than this because I do like this stuff. I buy them cheap, and when one goes on sale, or they'd have somebody ordered one and didn't want to pick it up, and it wasn't like part of their normal thing that they were going to do, and you just throw a low ball offer out there and get a bike. And so that's what I did a bunch. And like, I know that there's people that will look at these and just feel like these are old and whatever, but these are rad. These are way cool bikes. You know, I just think it's absolutely awesome that my kid has that Crave over there, because it's almost as good of a bike as my Stash 8. I mean, my Stash 8 was $2,400 in 2013. That Crave Pro was $2,000 in 2014. So they're really similar bikes, very similar kind of part spec and stuff. I mean, I just think that I was looking at Cannondales in there, right? And the second up from the bottom Cannondale was $800, and I spent less than that and got my kid, and like that was like a spring fork still, okay? Spring fork and basic parts. I spent less than that and got my kid 2 Fox Fork higher end Shimano component bikes. I just think that's super cool. And he knows that they're cool, and he's going to appreciate that they're nice and you know, higher end stuff. And he just shows them off to his friends and stuff. That's just fun. It's fun. One of his friends had like a Walmart bike, okay? And he jumped on my kid's rock hopper with the Fox Fork and stuff, and he rode it like 100 yards around this little bumpy thing. And he goes, whatever this is, I want it. Like, I need this in my life. And I'm talking like a 10-year-old kid. He was just standing there with his hands on his hips looking at it like, yeah, I need this. It was freaking hilarious. But it's the good bearings and the lightweight fork that soaks up the bumps real well. It just makes all the difference in the world. So this is cool. This is fun stuff. This will be Wednesday's video. I'm filming it Tuesday evening. I got to go edit this hour and a half of talking into something that's hopefully enjoyable to watch. I hope you guys enjoy this. Like and subscribe, and we'll be back on cars for the next video. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Tell me in this video, after you watch this video, put in the comments, do you want my next video to be like car news and stuff that's going on in the car world, or do you want me to go out for a drive? I think we're gonna have some rain coming, so go out for a drive would be pretty fun. I love driving in the rain. So yeah, let me know what you want. I've got multiple ideas for either one of those things. So if you want me to go out for a drive, I can do a car review type thing, or yeah, we can do all kinds of stuff. We can have all kinds of fun. Let me know what you guys want to see. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.